Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Damage Report. Still under lockdown in this massive, empty, creepy, possibly haunted building. It's just me, but maybe in the near future it won't be. Maybe if we start to take this thing seriously as a nation, someone could join me in studio. Someone like today's co-host, Jayar Jackson. How's it going, Jayar?
What's going on? Now that you mentioned the creepiness, potential creepiness of the studio, I'm going to be checking behind you constantly, see if something just wisps by.
Wait, was that monitor moving? Oh, the stars are moving. That's a little bit creepy. I think I'll get used to it. But yeah, it's a big wide open building, and the whole neighborhood. It's just these huge empty buildings. It's weird. It very much feels apocalyptic. Like I'm like going through to see if there's any clean water. Anyway, no, but I'm glad to have you on, JR. You generally come on for Big News Wednesdays. And I think that today's a pretty big news Wednesday. Not necessarily good news, although we do have a bit of that, and it's certainly been in short supply during 2020. So that should be a little bit of fun. But if you are already here in the stream, please hit the like button. You can share it. Let people know that this thing is active, because the algorithm sometimes favors us. It puts, its hand on our shoulder, but sometimes not. Give it a little boost. Tell it to do the right thing. And we'll be talking with you throughout the show, responding to your comments on YouTube and Twitch and Super Chat. And I got a whole bunch of little windows open so that I can see everything that you're all saying. So just know that you're watched. Know that you're watched. But anyway,
well, also, John, they should also know that we did not do this on purpose, but everyone should know that, yes.
Press on.
I mean, sometimes we just got to make sure the message is spread far and wide. We do press on. Shop
we
TYT
do.
TYT shop. I don't know which one it is, but go to the
TYT.
shop.
Yes. And basically all of the shirts. I think I got another. What's this? I think I got the No Justice, No Peace. We've got the Press On. I had my squad one a few days ago. That's all available. You can wear it. Yes, it's a pandemic, but you do still have to cover up your torso. So if you wanted to do that, what better way? I don't know any other way, honestly, than one of these shirts. And by the way, the We Press On is part of our fundraising drive that we're having throughout the year, because all of us at TYT like what we're doing and want to be employed. So if you can help us to achieve that goal, please go to tyt.com/go and support us if you can. I know that many of you support us by being members and by sending in super chats, some of which have already come in, which we'll be reading soon. And whichever form it comes in, we definitely appreciate your support, even if it just comes in the form of watching the show, talking to us in the comments and things like that. We really do appreciate it. And with that, why don't we transition to the first of our many awesome topics? Yeah. This one's less awesome, more depressing. We're going to talk about it either way. Donald Trump went to Kenosha, despite the fact that very few people on the ground seemed to want him there. The leadership of the state didn't want him there, but he wasn't going to be stopped. And so he went, and it was presidential in the way that Donald Trump being there would be. Here's his intro.
It's a great honor. If you feel more comfortable, you'll say a couple of words. You might want to take the masks off. Otherwise, you can leave them on. Either way you want. Look how fast you took that.
Yeah. Just if you want to take them off, you can take them off. They know that they could. But yeah, just encourage people to take it off. They're sitting all around you. Why would they wear a mask? I mean, why? Why?
Because, as many people are saying, to try and absolve him of all of his beliefs and the way he's approached this entire pandemic, Donald Trump is serious about mask wearing now because he said it twice. And then 278 other times he said the opposite. So you take whichever one you think is the truth.
Exactly. It doesn't matter compared to all the other horrendous things he said. I just wanted to just briefly put a pin in it. He's encouraging people to take off their masks because, of course, he is, because the pandemic's done. You idiots. Why do you think there's still a pandemic? Anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But he's got a new line. It's like how comedians have new bits, except instead of it being a funny thing that distracts you from life's stress, it makes you long for the end, which, looking around California, seems to be here. So here he is on cops, the bad apples and the chokers.
You have some bad apples. We all know that. And those will be taken care of through the system. And nobody's going to be easy on them either. And you have people that choke. They're under tremendous, I said it yesterday, I said it last night. They're under tremendous pressure. And they may be there for 15 years and have a spotless record. And all of a sudden they're faced with a decision. They have a quarter of a second to make a decision. And if they make a wrong decision, one way or the other, they're either dead or they're in big trouble. And people have to understand that. They choke sometimes.
Okay, so that's a thing that I could have missed one. I don't know, but he started saying a couple of days ago, and that's his new thing. Despite the fact that it makes absolutely no sense, despite the fact that he tried to compare it to a golfer making a putt, despite the fact that the cops frequently do choke people to death, Jayar, that's his new thing. Let's not get down on them. They're just choking a bit.
Just choking. It's just their job to go out there and make split-second decisions, which whichever percentage of the time, they make the wrong decision. And when they make that wrong decision, someone else dies. He somehow completely neglected that part of it. So the cops have to make an immediate decision. If they make the wrong one, then they kill someone. After they make that wrong decision to kill someone, they move right along. And by the way, this is more of the lip service. So if any of them make a wrong decision, whatever bad apples, people do something wrong, they get taken care of, and they get taken care of strongly. Follow-up question, Mr. President, how, when, and what is it that actually happens to these cops when they make the wrong decision and they get held responsible strongly? What does that mean? What cases did this happen in where they get handled strongly, besides the 3 that we heard about where they actually were handled strongly? Has it happened yet with Breonna Taylor? No, it hasn't happened yet with Breonna Taylor. Has it happened with these last few things that have sparked all these protests? No, it hasn't happened there either. But they're handled strongly just because he said so. Ignore the reality and listen to what he said, that they just, because they're handled, and they'll be handled strongly. So also, he's pushing this line of choking out, as you mentioned. He first floated that on Laura Ingram's show. And even Laura Ingraham, who is his unofficial advisor along with Sean Hannity, said, before he could finish that ridiculous point, she said, well, you don't mean golf. You're not comparing it to golf. She didn't ask him. She goes, Trump, you're not comparing it to golf. It was like one of those nodding things. You're like, let me get the dummy to realize that this is a bad analogy to make. You didn't mean that, right, Donald? And he goes, oh, no, I didn't mean it that way. I'm just going to say it several more times. You should start listening to your advisors. Your Fox News advisors.
I mean, she's protecting him, I guess. But yeah, and just every time I hear it, and you're going to hear it, 100 times over the next 3 months, because he can hold like 3 thoughts in his mind. And one of them is always going to be, could someone get me a Diet Coke? So there's only room for like choking and one other thing. Maybe the thing about Sarah Huckabee Sanders and how he thinks that she should sleep with the dictator of North Korea. I don't know. We're not going to talk about that as a full story because I just can't, but I have to mention it because I got to get it out of my brain. That happened. Anyway.
You know who else? You know who else chokes, John? You know who else chokes? Sometimes doctors choke when they're on the operating table. Sometimes doctors don't choke when they're on the operating table, and sometimes they're underqualified. Sometimes maybe they're being irresponsible. Maybe they're doing some radical different approach. Maybe they just don't feel like it that day. Maybe they're tired. Whatever reason it is, doctors make mistakes, and there's this thing called malpractice. So sometimes doctors get in trouble for the things that they do when they do it wrong, and someone dies under their care. And I don't remember a big coalition of people saying, "Free the doctors that have that are up for malpractice claims," and that they killed a family member lying on their operating table. Maybe they choked. Okay, let's move on. Maybe they choked while they had someone cut open, and then they allowed them to die on the table. Maybe that happened, and we should just move along.
Well, and
it's not the way it works.
There's so much about this that just makes me so mad, and I hate that we even have to talk about it. But you choke in situations that have high stakes that don't actually mean anything. Making a basket, something like that. Not if I miss that free throw, my forward doesn't die. That's not generally how it works outside of sci-fi. That's just not what it is. And here's the thing. Let's say that Trump is right, which feels weird. I feel a little bit queasy. If they are just choking and it's like, God, the pressure got to them. How about this? Let's not have them have guns. That way, if they choke, nobody gets shot. I think that's an interesting way to look at it. If high pressure situations lead to a bunch of people unfortunately and necessarily and tragically getting shot, maybe take the gun away. Much harder to shoot a person without a gun. I've run the tests. It's really hard. But of course, he doesn't actually care about the metaphor or about anything. And also his line there that, there's bad apples and we're not going to go easy on them. When have you even heard them bring up one of the bad apples except to turn people away from this talk about systemic reform? Like that when people get really mad about it, and they're like, something needs to be done, then suddenly it's, oh no, there's some bad apples and we're going to take it really seriously. Are they the ones that get outraged when people get shot in the back or choked out? Or are they clearly only playing defense for the police? You've watched this situation countless times. You might have seen it in your own life. You certainly see it on TV if you're lucky enough not to. And you know what this is. They don't give a damn about the bad apples or the good apples. They're just playing defense because they don't want reform. And on that, does Donald Trump think that systemic racism is a problem? Seems like this would be a slam dunk. I mean, you went to Kenosha to heal things, didn't you? Here was his response.
We're focusing on violent actions, but there have been countless nonviolent protests here in Wisconsin and across the country this summer. People calling for an end to systemic racism. Do you believe systemic racism is a problem in this country?
Well, you know, you just keep getting back to the opposite subject. We should talk about the kind of violence that we've seen in Portland and here and other places. It's tremendous violence. You always get to the other side. Well, what do you think about this or that? The fact is that we've seen tremendous violence, but you have some really bad people, too. You have anarchists, and you have the looters, and you have the rioters. You have all types. You have agitators. And that's what you should be focusing on with your question.
He was asked the biggest softball, easiest answer if you weren't, you know, the figurehead of a death cult founded on white supremacy and xenophobia. He's asked if systemic racism is a problem, and he instantly started talking about looters and anarchists and how that's the real problem.
And the answer to a question about systemic racism in the country is, I don't like that you asked that question. This is the question you should ask. So, are you there for a press conference, or are you there to tell the press how to do their job? Hey, if you don't want to answer the questions, don't take questions, man. So if I mean, just even from his perspective, does he think that makes him look good? To get a question that simple and that straightforward, it's a yes or no answer, honestly. But can't give that because he knows either way it's a bad answer, because he's he's the leader of a group of people who want to support this racism that we have pumping through our system every day. So you definitely can't anger them, and you definitely can't admit the truth because he's Donald Trump, and truth just like it repels him. So you have to go with this long answer that then blames more the people that you're actually fighting against, because you are the problem. You've been created from the problem, and now you're the figurehead of the problem, and you definitely can't go against who you are. That's just who he is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, Donald Trump sitting there and saying, yeah, you know, it is a serious issue, and you know, this sort of systemic racism has been baked into the DNA of our country since before it was even a country, and it's time that we finally take stock of it. And not a word of that is going to come out, both because he doesn't have it in him to do it, and also because he knows that it would, if anything could shatter his movement, that would be the thing that would do it. And yeah, so just a couple of notes. I don't want to play tons more of the video for you, but he at one point, remember, this is the guy saying that bad apples, we're not going to go easy on them. He made references to the fact that we can't take cops' jobs away when they do the wrong thing. And he said, we can't ban them just because they utter the wrong word. And then he moved on. He didn't define what he meant there. So it's on us to speculate. What do you mean get rid of people for uttering the wrong word? We're talking about people being shot in the back, and you're talking about uttering the wrong word. And then I realized, oh yeah, I remember a bit of news from 2 days ago. Let's bring up this. I can't use it, said white South Carolina cop suspended for repeating the N-word on camera. That was 2 days ago, the day before he said we can't get rid of cops just for uttering the wrong word. Is that definitely what he was referring to? I don't know. But he's definitely talking about cops that use racial slurs, whether it's that particular cop or one of the many other cops that are spouting off with racial slurs. That's definitely what he's talking about. Because when you, a full-grown adult in a position of power with the power of life and death over the people around you, when you repeatedly utter the N-word, you just uttered the wrong word. It doesn't say anything about you. Shouldn't lead anyone to be scared of you having a gun or anything like that.
Yeah, if you utter the wrong word, it shouldn't be an end-all. I remember just, again, on that same Laura Ingraham interview, he was talking about how, and not even know it was the Antifa or Black Lives Matter this time, that group, Black Lives Matter, that they've somehow called this like corporation. But so how I first heard of Black Lives Matter. That's what it was. I first heard of Black Lives Matter when they said pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. He said it about 17 times. So if you say that and that's an issue, it's just a couple of words, Donald. Why can't they utter a random word and get away with it? I thought cops can utter a random word over and over again and get away with it, but they can't get away with it with you because you care about that. No, you actually don't care about that because you don't care about anyone else's lives, even your supporters. What you care about is using their anger that you fomented to increase your chances at re-election, because that's actually all you care about.
You know, like, that's such a good point. And I saw that as you were starting to say that, Ty Johnson in the comments said, wrong word, but he clutches his pearls over pigs in a blanket. Exactly. And someone on CNN tweeted something he didn't like. He wants them to be fired now as a result of that. He asked for like 3 different people to be canceled as a result of the things they said that didn't imply that someone who frequently goes around their town with a gun thinks negatively about the people that they're supposed to be protecting. Yeah, again, the hypocrisy is unfortunately deadly.
Sorry, and one more time, I say it every time. Everyone, if you want to know what cops are saying about people online and on social media, the Plain View Project, like the stuff is in plain view. It's a database of the things cops have been saying on social media and how much they hate the citizens that they are supposed to be protecting.
I feel like
while
I've
they
heard
cry.
This before. I'm gonna have to look into that.
I think we interviewed someone that was part of organizing it on TDR like a year ago.
Interesting. Yeah, it did seem familiar. Interesting. I'm gonna have to look up who's the leader of that. Okay, so Donald Trump's trip to Kenosha was supposed to be him, strong leader, giving the people who want a fascist America exactly what they want. But he couldn't even get that right. The entire thing, top to bottom, was not just offensive, it was deeply ridiculous and embarrassing. And I want to show you an example of this. We've been talking for some time about the threat posed by Antifa super soldiers, but we were spelling super wrong, it turns out. Here's Trump.
It's water. And then they have cans of soup. And they throw the cans of soup. That's better than a brick because you can't throw a brick, it's too heavy. But a can of soup, you can really put some power into that, right? Yes, sir. And then when they get caught, they say, no, this is soup for my family. They're so innocent. This is soup for my family. It's incredible. And you have people coming over with bags of soup, big bags of soup, and they lay it on the ground, and the anarchists take it and they start throwing it at our cops, at our police. And if it hits you, that's worse than a brick because it's got force. It's the perfect size. It's like made perfect. And when they get caught, they say, no, this is just soup for my family. And then the media says, this is just soup. These people are very, very innocent. They're innocent people. These are just protesters. Isn't it wonderful to allow protesting? No. And by the way, the media knows it better than we do. They know what's going on. I don't know what's wrong with them. They're doing our country.
Yeah. So, okay, soup. Hey, so there's this guy who sits in the White House who just maybe even yesterday said, 2 days ago, he said they're paintballs. They're not bullets. They're paintballs. Mm-hmm. And talking about his supporters that driving through protests, shooting paintballs at people with paintball guns that look like guns. So paintballs aren't lethal, though. They can't kill you. Police are firing, have been, and firing all kinds of rubber bullets at people, destroying people's faces and eyes and stuff. They fire all kinds of non-lethal weapons at people, and that's okay. Hey, so whatever this soup can thing is that he came up, we're going to first go off with that BS, but fine, we'll go with the soup cans. I'm not sure if soup cans can kill people, and I'm not sure how weak Donald Trump is, but I can throw a brick, same way I can throw a soup can.
Well,
I don't know what that line was.
Jayar.
Like, oh, bricks are too heavy to throw, but a soup can is. What are we talking about?
A brick doesn't have force behind it like a can of Chef Boyardee does, you idiot. Obviously. Wait. And you're acting like, okay, I understand it's generally you eat a can of soup, but that doesn't mean it's not a weapon of mass destruction. Don't you remember when Luke Skywalker beamed the Death Star with a can of chili? It's great that Trump is trying to protect us at the southern border with his wall, but man, if someone in Juarez ever gets a can of chili, the whole thing, like dominoes. What? Oh my God. And here's the thing. his Antifa, like plane filled up with soldiers thing was from some guy in Iowa's Facebook post. So I don't yet know exactly where the soup thing comes from, but I have a pretty good idea. I'm sure Ben Collins of NBC News is going to track it down. It's going to be some, I'm not going to swear, some individual in Kentucky picks up a can of soup and says, Antifa threw this at me. I swear to God, that is going to be the source of this embarrassing rant from Donald Trump about how the real threat is not cops shooting you in the back. It's that someone once threw a can of soup.
They threw a can of soup.
We're an embarrassment, honestly. And God, I know. If Joe Biden becomes president, it does not solve all of our problems. And it will still require years of activism and work to try to push him in the right direction until he can be replaced by someone who actually takes the problem seriously in the way we need. But it would be nice on one level to not have a day of news about the soup or about the planes or about whatever, to have something approaching sane governance.
Man, hey, wait until these Antifa start throwing pigs in a blanket at these guys. It's gonna be anarchy.
You just coat them in a little bit of oil and stings. It stings.
Yep. It slaps off you and it just slides. Oh, it's devastating.
They think, and again, I know if we're gonna devolve into a sort of Christian fascist state founded around a strong man, this guy,
a weak man,
the soup guy, the Campbell's guy, the soup Nazi, he's the one that's gonna take down America. What a pathetic end.
He's the soup Nazi. It's the perfect.
Antifa, no soup for you. That's what he's saying. And I understand it's. I know. Just like Dan made a great point in the show yesterday. I understand it's a distraction, which is why we're going to turn to the more serious later. But he's in Kenosha where people are dying, and he's got soup for us. Okay. Imagine a plane filled with soup. Imagine what you could do with that. Anyway, let's see what's going on with the audience. Hopefully non-soup related. First out the gate with a super chat today. Kirstiel says, Jayar, I've looked everywhere for your Wounded Heart with Bernie's hair t-shirt. Where can I find one for me? Love you guys. Thanks for sifting through the daily pile of excrement for us. Isn't that on Shop TYT?
It should have been, unless it's now gone, because it was. I remember last year we came out with that one. But yeah, it should be. And
it's on. It's on Shop TYT right now.
Go to
Shop TYT, search for Medicare. It's available. Slack. Both are good.
I need another asked and answered. This is immediate customer service in the middle of TDR.
I try. Well, I'm hoping that if they see me taking the shirt so seriously, someday they'll give me one.
The Bernie ones? Oh, awesome.
No, I don't. No, they give me shirts. That's very nice of them. They gave me this one, but I mean, like,
Bernie
TDR could have a shirt.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'm going to give Shop TYT 1 week, and then I'm coming with soup. Anyway, Kai Allen says, sounds new agey, but meditation apps, aromatherapy, deep breathing, mindfulness, and yoga truly helps. I'm a therapist, and I approve this message. Kai, I appreciate that. I do. There was a message on Twitch I'm going to try to get back to. I don't know if it was pulled. I hope it was. Let's see. I don't see it. At some point, I'm going to find it. Okay, Blue Heart Box says, the choke dog whistle is so strong I have tinnitus. The idea that Derek Chauvin choked as he suffocated George Floyd to death makes me boiling mad. I'm right there with you. Let's see. Real Life Jolly says, hey, Johnny, the moment that Bernie's $2,000 a month bill passes, I will donate $200 for TYT.go. And also, is it just International Cat Day, or is there a reason that the Super Chat prompt changed to Super Cat? That's interesting. I assume that's got to be it. Sean Umpleby says, ensuring all episodes include some Marvel content. I was killing time by watching The Avengers because of Chadwick. It almost was late. We press on. Yeah, that's sad. Oh, man. Okay. JR, why don't we turn to a little bit of positive news before we launch back into the soup pot?
I'll take it.
Okay. Down goes Kennedy. They said it couldn't be done. In fact, they said it had never been done. A Kennedy had never lost a statewide race in Massachusetts, but there's a first time for everything. Let's bring up the results of Ed Markey's race against Joseph Kennedy, with Edward Markey winning 55.5% to 44.5%, at least when I took that screenshot. I don't know what the final result is going to be, but the final result is going to be that Ed Markey won re-election. So that is certainly good. I had been worried because it's a Kennedy, because he got $1 billion, because he was getting endorsements, from the Democratic establishment, which doesn't save all of their incumbents, but can save some. And the idea that Ed Markey, after leading the charge on the Green New Deal over the past 2 years, neck and neck with AOC, like him in the Senate, her in the House, working with activists, that he would be taken down by Kennedy, who, with 2 years to explain why he's challenging Markey, never came up with an explanation. That would have been a truly depressing moment. But here, thankfully, Markey has won. There's some good news.
This says a lot. It says a lot, John. So, as we know, anytime the Democratic establishment comes with someone like a Kennedy to take the spot of a progressive in office, it really shows just how important it is to them that this isn't the way things go for the Democratic Party. They're like, okay, there's plenty of potential challengers, but let's come with a Kennedy on this one, because Kennedys don't lose, as we all have been talking about so much. And there's no way we can lose this, because Kennedys just don't lose. And we're going to go ahead and get Speaker of the House to endorse him. That's going to help galvanize this effort, and it's just all going to be over. That's a lot of focus and attention on the progressive, because that's what's so threatening. It's so threatening to have policies and an agenda that help the American people, that you're like, let's bring this established name, so much so that, again, Nancy Pelosi decided to be upset when someone came forward and disparaged the name of the Kennedys. You can't do that. This is only politics. Hey, I thought in politics you're supposed to talk about your opponent and criticize what they're doing wrong and how you're going to do it differently. But you can't do that with a Kennedy, because they're untouchable. So it just, that's the approach. And when it doesn't work, are we now going to hear people like Nancy Pelosi? Maybe we will. Maybe we will. So this isn't a speculation to say what she has said or what she will say, but will we hear her go, this is a confirmation that progressivism is a strong section of this party, and we need to start respecting it, and maybe exalting some of these progressives within our party, because that's the future. Will we hear that? This is a confirmation of that. This is a confirmation that I said before, after members of the squad came and all of us went crazy. I was like, I'm waiting for the confirmation of these elections, of the AOCs and the Rashida Tlaibs and Ilhan Omars. I need to see that confirmation to make sure we know this is the direction and there's enough of an effort behind it for it to continue on. This is one of those confirmations. Now, we'll see it. Will the establishment see it? Because I guarantee you, if an establishment figure wins, which one did, we're going to hear them say, this galvanizes our effort to continue forward with this particular candidate, because this particular candidate espouse values of the Democratic Party, and it's the way we're going to go forward in this country, defeat Donald Trump. That's just the way they're going to push it, because that's a political thing to say. But when it happens against you, will you say the opposite? Hell no, you won't. Yeah, I'm sorry. I predicted what she'll say. I didn't mean to, but hell no, she won't.
Yeah, and look, it was close. And the thing is, Markey's on the older side, and so does Elizabeth Warren. So it's not like Kennedy's not going to run again in a few years or 6 years or 10 years or whatever. He'll inevitably do it. So just got to make sure that we've got a good progressive to run against him. And what do you know? There are some good progressives in Massachusetts that in 4 or 6 or 10 years might be looking to move up to the Senate. Also in New York. We'll see about that soon. That's one of the only things keep me going. So I just want to give you a little bit from last night, the reactions to the results. Here's a little bit of Ed Markey during his victory speech.
Growing up, my father told me, don't beg for your rights. You organize and you take them. So to the young people fighting in this movement for change, here is my charge to you. March in the streets, protest, run for school committee or city council or the state legislature and win. But don't just challenge the status quo, dismantle it, take things over.
Nice. And the establishment went against him. Nancy Pelosi with her last-minute endorsement of him. I believe Schumer as well. And then also you got like Beto O'Rourke. Like Beto O'Rourke is not going to miss an opportunity to make the wrong choice. He is always going to be there. Hey, that's a disaster. Wait, hold up. I gotta get in on that. Anyway,
somebody catch that bus.
Throw me now. Anyway, I need to throw myself under the bus. So there he talked about activists, tearing down the establishment, fighting for it and all that. And obviously there's one group, above all else that was involved with Markey both before and during the election. And that was the Sunrise Movement, who tweeted, "We made history," in reference to the Kennedy has never lost a race in Massachusetts thing. But they had a lot of good tweets about it. And Varshini Prakash has been on the show a million times. She was talking about it as well. And obviously that was a big night for them too, because if they lost the guy that had been working with them, that would have presumably hurt their movement in the future. Now it looks like, get tied in with these young activists, support these progressive priorities, and even you can beat a Kennedy. So that's good. One other thing I want to mention though, and it's been the weird thing about this. So Markey is better than a lot of Democrats, but the thing is, it's not like Markey is Sanders or AOC. He hasn't made every one of the right votes. He hasn't always held the right positions and all of that. But he gets the challenges that face America, and climate change is perhaps the biggest. And he's doing what's actually necessary. He's listening to the scientists and the activists. And what do you know? Progressives are supporting him. This older Democrat that could have justifiably been described as very centrist up until very recently got their support. And there was a great tweet about this from Claire Sandberg that I want to read. "Corporate Democrats want to make the left out to be purity obsessed and unwilling to compromise. But the left rallied around a longtime politician with a mixed record because he actively courted their support and became a champion of one of their major legislative priorities. It's actually not that hard to get support from the left. Just give us the things that we want. That's it." And that's 100% right. Kennedy could have been that person. He could have actually cared about the environment, actually worked to stop climate change, actually support the Green New Deal. He wants to imply that he does, like all the centrists do. But he's not out there championing it like Ed Markey is. And by the way, in a couple of years, Schumer, do you want to be an Ed Markey who gets the activists on your side and fends off a progressive challenger potentially? Or do you want to be taken down like so many others have because you consider the left too purity obsessed when the only purity we want is ideally cleaner air and water? So anyway, I thought that was a great point from Claire Sandberg.
Yeah.
We are not irrational. We will support people who have done some bad things in the past, have had some of the wrong positions, if they actually care and fight for the right things. And Markey is the best possible example of that.
This is the difference between people that are looking to get into office to do something for Americans versus people who are looking to get in office to do something for themselves or to advance their careers. Now, I'm making assumptions, but I have this assumption that Joe Kennedy was looking to advance his political career. And it's not just a shot at Joe Kennedy. 99% of politicians are in there strictly to progress their political career. And if you've been in the bubble for that long, you think the way that I advance my political career is I go with the establishment. I definitely don't do anything as progressive, especially when the Republican Party is railing on progressivism and claiming that the entire party is full of progressives and are being controlled by progressives like AOC somehow. But so when you look at it like that, you go, well, my best way of doing this is to go along with the establishment. If I become president one day, I can't ever have been seen on camera advocating anything that AOC has done or advocating anything any progressives have done, because progressives can't win anything in this country because they have this mindset that these policies are losing policies, or they have this mindset that those policies would help too many people and it would hurt them a little too much. It all goes back to your own personal advancement. You can't advance the ideals of the country if you advance your own solely. It just doesn't work that way. So it's, if your political aspirations are to move forward and to move on to the next step and the next step and the next step, there's no way you're going to do anything for the people because you're going to get too much pushback. You need to have a free-flowing, non-hurdled approach to your bid to become president one day.
Yeah, I wonder what races are coming up in the next 2 years. Are they scared of us nerds yet? Have they gotten the message? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I hope that they haven't. Now, that doesn't mean that all the results from yesterday's primaries were good. Alex Morse, who is running a strong challenge against Richard Neal, came up short. For a lot of reasons that should be fairly obvious at this point. I want to read a statement from the president and CEO of LGBTQ Victory Fund, Anise Parker, about the incredibly dishonest, homophobic smear campaign that was run against Morse in the last weeks of the race. The efforts to sensationalize and weaponize Alex's sexual orientation certainly influenced the outcome of this race, but the backlash it engendered should give pause to those considering similar tactics in the future. We are grateful Alex stayed in the race and took the body blows necessary to expose the double standards too often placed on LGBTQ candidates. 100% right. Now, do we know that if there hadn't been that smear campaign, if he would have won? We don't know. Richard Neal is a longtime incumbent, powerful, a lot of resources. It was going to be an incredibly difficult campaign no matter what, but obviously it didn't help. Now, hopefully enough people got the truth that going forward, if he were to run again in the future, maybe they won't play those same games. But they did win after playing them. So what lesson do we expect the establishment to have learned from this? That they can pretend to be supportive of the LGBTQ community and at the same time weaponize homophobia and other forms of prejudice to win elections when it's necessary. That's the takeaway from this big race. And I'm sure he's not going away. He's not going to be gone. He's probably going to run again. But it was unfortunate.
I mean, we might get establishment folks saying it's a confirmation of their stance in the party and the establishment there. We won't, as I mentioned before, hear people talk about how when Markey wins, it's an establishment. I mean, it's established that a progressive is the standard bearer of this section of the party and that they deserve to be there. I'm just looking to hear the same argument from both results. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and God, at least it's one thing when like the candidate does the dirty tricks. But Richard Neal he just sits in the back, and his people coordinate on this. Long time out from the election, they roll it out, and it's all revealed. The Intercept and Ryan Grimm, and others did a great job of revealing it. But unfortunately, disinformation is always going to be more powerful than the corrections that come afterward. Even with the best efforts of journalists, that's why it's so powerful. That's why they do it. They didn't do it. Not a single person involved in this scheme did it because they were genuinely worried about Alex Morse courting the young in Massachusetts. Nobody thought that. Nobody was worried about it. Nobody thought it was serious. They were lying because they knew lying worked. And the thing is, we, whether you're one of these centrist Dems or on the left, we're supposed to be united in fighting the whole Trump thing. And the whole Trump thing, a big portion of that is no holds barred, the ends justify the means politics, founded in xenophobia, hatred, and dishonesty. And we got a heavy helping of that in this race. And I don't want to see people running and winning Democratic seats using the tactics of Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz and God knows who else. But that's unfortunately what we got here.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's read a few chats before we move on. Tesla Ranger in the YouTube comments said, I have an idea for a TYT t-shirt, a progressive instead of Progresso soup can. Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know if people will remember in a few weeks.
Progresso soup.
But we'll see. God, the soup.
Yeah.
It's a shard of glass in my brain.
They can team up with Hillary Clinton. They can team up with Hillary Clinton and have a super predator shirt. And they can go ahead and mark it since they're all on the same side with that.
Oh my God. Anyway, do you have a license for that can? Anyway, Franklin Sharpslicer has a little poem for us. I would still buy Brett's Lion Elixir for women or man. Then maybe at least we'd understand, but maybe we'd understand more if we all slam our fingies in a car door. Now it's Soupette says stupid. I gotta see this Brett ad. I haven't. Where can I see it? Maybe when I'm on the main show today, I'll see it. AJ, thank you for your super chat. Eric says cans of beans, Goya beans. No, those are safe. Patriots throw Goya bean cans. It's you monster Antifa super soldiers that are throwing the chili and the clam chowder.
Yeah, and they also drive on Goodyear tires.
Yeah, exactly. They'll roll a tire at you and it just gets force. A tank could never have that force.
Goodyear.
Sean says he just said he was against protesting. Wow, yeah, and the soup thing he does end by saying that he's against protesting. This man is the epitome of stupidity. This president will be the evidence we need to fund education. I feel like we got enough of that. Enough evidence. Okay. Jenna Foster Hendricks says, here is a super chat. All credit goes to my wonderful husband. Thanks for all you guys do and keep up the great fight. Thank you. And thank you to everyone engaging in super chats. Just don't throw the super chats at me too fast, okay? I don't want to be knocked out live on air. Okay. Misty Bauer says, I think Trump uses choke as it's okay to someone to death because he pauses after that word every time he says it. I don't think he means clay up. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, his brain is clam chowder, so it's difficult to try to figure out the way he thinks. Later, Ruiz says, the wife and I just bought a house today. While leaving the new neighborhood, I noticed one of our neighbor's trucks is a massive Trump 2020 flag. My stomach sunk, and now I don't know if we're safe. I hope so. I can understand why that would be so scary. Okay, with that, let's jump. You know what? Actually, let's see what's going on in Twitch.
I was gonna say congratulations on the move with the new house, because that's a big deal right now. You know, especially right what's going on right now, and then you have to deal with that. It sucks, man.
Yeah. Bart says, come on, John, don't you know that if you throw peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at cops, it jams police frequencies? That's Antifa's secret weapon. Shh. Yeah. No, I mean, I know all the tricks. I know how to jam a radar. I grew up in the 80s. Anyway, in the Twitch chat, Seth Ian Rosen says, Civil War II started by a random can of chunky beef burger. No, but seriously, he was more angry at some conspiracy theory about somebody hucking split pea than about the guy that murdered multiple protesters in Kenosha. And I know no one's surprised by that, but we can't stop saying it, honestly. Trashy Place says, what if they froze the soup can? My God, this technology is too dangerous for the poor to have. 100%. 100%. Oh, geez. Obi-Wan Kenobi, thank you for gifting subs, as always. Appreciate that. Okay, let's jump now to the pandemic, to some of what Donald Trump is more than likely attempting to distract us from, and that is the economic toll. Not too many weeks ago, the Republicans decided, you know, that stimulus that we're doing for the millions upon millions of Americans that have lost their jobs, I don't even care about that anymore. Let's just let it lapse. And so they did. And so the enhanced unemployment largely went away. Donald Trump had his little executive order that, to a limited extent, for some people might have given about half of that, maybe with a massive delay. And I honestly don't even know if anyone's receiving it yet. But the Senate Republicans didn't care at all. And we said at the time, that seems horrific because these people desperately need the help. And it turns out, yeah, they desperately needed the help. So let's take a look at the percentage of unemployed struggling to pay their bills following that decision. And you can see there, you've got from early May on through June, July, and August. And they did little snapshots of what percent can't afford to pay their bills. Back in May, it was about 31%. And we as a nation decided we're going to help these people. We're going to give them some help. And that went down to just 19% in June. And then July, it starts going up. And by near the end of August, it's up to 50%. Almost double what it was back in May. Because when people lose their jobs and there's no new jobs for them to get, and the government decides they're not going to help them out, that can lead to economic ruin. And that's what we're seeing here. An ever-rising percentage of the population simply can't afford to pay their bills. And it's only going to get worse from here. We've got some numbers on evictions coming up, but Jayar, not surprising, I guess.
Right. So this is what's happening to people every day, and the worries that go through people every day. Even as all these protests and things happen across the country, these other things sometimes get forgotten. Now, side note, this is something also was going down there. There's this open and honestly, they're being straightforward now. The Senate Republicans are looking to pass another stimulus package. Now, Mitch McConnell went to Mark Meadows and Steve Mnuchin, who were part of the administration, obviously, and was coordinating this effort to make sure they protect the vulnerable Republicans like Susan Collins, Tom Tillis in North Carolina. They're hoping to deliver some kind of an aid package to make them look better because they're looking like they're in a vulnerable position. We got to keep that Senate majority, right? In doing so, they're looking to pass a toned down, lessened relief package bill for the American people, strictly to make Republicans look good, not to help American people, to make Republicans look good, and then hoping the Democrats will be like, this is not enough. And then they'll move on. And then the Democrats will say, no, we're not passing this thing. It's not enough for the American people, so that then they can flip that and say, look at how the Democrats are not looking to help the American people. This is the plan. This is, and by the way, this isn't speculation. It's in an article. So a GOP aide said moderate Democrats, especially in the House, are pushing for something like this, and it puts Democratic leaders in an awkward position. We can use that then to keep them from, or to try and fight to keep our majority in Congress or in the Senate. So you tell me, how much are Republicans focused on helping people that are in these situations where economic devastation has hit them? They're worried about their rent. They're worried about food. They're worried about car notes. They're worried about getting evicted. All these things keep happening. But what they're concerned with is coming up with a fake bill to get you to think they're doing something when their absolute and exact objective is to do nothing but to make the other party look bad for not allowing them to do nothing for you. That's what this political party is doing now. So as we're talking about these things that are happening to people in their real life, what they're discussing with Steve Mnuchin and Mark Meadows in the White House is how do we keep our fake majority of people in Senate that aren't doing anything for anyone? And these are the people that they're looking to attract voters to. Not with policy, not with anything that'll help anyone, but with a trick and a bait and switch to try and stop Democrats from looking as good as they can so they can hold on to their seats and continue to do nothing. Just always remember that next time you worry about whether or not your politicians are doing something for you or not, or if they're just doing something to stay in office. They say it blatantly and openly. This is not a conspiracy theory. They say it straightforward and openly because they know you don't care anymore.
And they don't. Yeah, and they certainly don't. They've convinced a lot of their audience not to care. Even not to care, not just about the pandemic, but specific stuff. Like, I'm sure you saw that poll. I think it was CBS News like a week ago. And it was like 80% of Republicans who lost their jobs during the pandemic, like, support the president. They don't, like, they're not mad about that. Like, they themselves have lost out and they don't care. And so if you're Mitch McConnell and you're seeing that, why would you provide aid? Donald Trump's numbers throughout the pandemic, after 190,000 or so deaths, how many countless tens of millions of jobs lost? What, did he lose a couple points? Maybe. Like, how can a democracy function when those in control of the Senate and the White House, they can fail as much as they want and their base doesn't care? They just get more mad at those that don't have power. And so Mitch McConnell could have been scared into a position from the reaction to the first few months of the pandemic and could have supported more stimulus. He could have done that. That could have happened in America, but it didn't, because as a nation, we weren't united in demanding it, in demanding that the government actually take the pandemic seriously and take the economic crisis seriously. It was split. And so in government, it's split. And so maybe we'll get something. You know what? Maybe Mitch McConnell will do this cynical ploy and he'll put forward a bill that doesn't actually help all that much. And Nancy Pelosi will either fall into the trap or think, I mean, I guess this is literally the only thing we're going to get. And either way, it's going to result in perhaps a little bit of help that won't actually be nearly enough to save people's apartments and, you know, businesses, all of this stuff. And that's sort of the best case scenario at this point, because even if Biden wins, he's not going to be president for more than 6 months. So.
Yeah, I know you've had that prediction going for a while now.
What?
That Biden wouldn't be in office very long.
No. I don't mean that. I mean that, let's say that hypothetically he does win. He doesn't become president November 3rd. It takes months after that for him to actually become president. So we're stuck with this for a long time. Now, just briefly, I want to jump ahead in the graphics just a little bit. Some other indications of how people are doing. New polling from Gallup and West Health revealed that 50% of Americans are concerned a major health event could lead to bankruptcy, a 5-point increase from a survey last year. I'm shocked that's not a bigger increase, but that is half of Americans that are concerned about that. And why not? Our economic situation is worse. We haven't done anything to make healthcare more affordable or more accessible. Yeah, I'm not shocked that that hasn't gone up. And then finally, on the evictions, I just wanted to take a look at LA, where we live, to see what's going on. So among LA County renters that did not pay rent, either in full or partially, about 98,000 have been threatened with an eviction, while an additional 40,000 said their landlord already started eviction proceedings against them. That's 130,000 different renters just in LA County that hypothetically could be thrown out of their apartments as a result of all of this. And that's one city. Now imagine across the entirety of the country. And by the way, I saw almost 40,000 households in LA County alone are 3 full months behind on their rent. And we just passed another rent day. And if you couldn't pay rent the day before and the government hasn't done literally anything to help you since then, how would you have a better chance of doing it now? Imagine the homelessness that's going to result that's going to be the result of this.
Exactly what I was going to say, John. And now imagine the homelessness that may happen, say, in Los Angeles, or the increase that it will result from this. After Donald Trump doesn't take the pandemic seriously, fumbles it consistently, lies about it consistently, it spreads, he says it is what it is, people die, it is whatever. People kicked out of their homes and houses over rent issues, it is what it is, whatever. After all that goes down, and then there's more homelessness in Los Angeles, you know what this same guy who did all that is going to say? Look at these Democrat-run states and the homeless problem going on in those states. And he'll blame these Democrat-run cities, these Democrat-run states. But the things that you did, because you're the president of the United States, I mean, I'm not sure if he realizes that yet, because you're the president of the entire country, and you implement policies or you ignore things to the point where people are put in these situations in cities, in democratically run cities in the United States that you run, and then after that you blame them for all the things that you did that led to those issues. Oh, there's homelessness here, but what did you do about the fact that people are getting kicked out of their homes after this extended pandemic that you did nothing about?
Yeah.
Nothing. Blame someone else. That's what she does about it.
Yeah. And you can tell that they despise, people protesting or even rioting over the horrific conditions. You can tell because they are contributing to those conditions in literally every way they can. More people dying, more people going bankrupt, more people being kicked out of their homes. That'll result in safer, more placid streets, I think. Okay. Now let's move on to Nancy Pelosi, because she's been just having a great week so far. God, Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi is in the news, not for the reasons she would want. It's because she apparently got her hair washed and blow-dried at a salon in San Francisco on Monday, and the salon's owner sent security camera footage to Fox News on Tuesday, calling the visit to her business a slap in the face. So, in this footage, which is available, it's local news, so we're not going to play it, but you can see it if you, for some reason, want to see Pelosi walking around an empty salon. You can see her with her hair wet and without a mask inside of E's Salon, which is in defiance of COVID-19 rules. In San Francisco, face coverings are mandatory in most public settings, and salons can only cut hair outdoors under new rules that took effect on Tuesday. That's actually similar to how it is in LA. Now, she was violating both of those things, and obviously she is a very powerful figure in San Francisco, so apparently has the ability to do that if she wants. And so this, for Fox, is the entire news cycle right now. Now, I will agree, she definitely shouldn't have done that, and she is about as tone deaf as one of our political elites could possibly be, to be out of one corner of her mouth telling people they need to wear masks and they need to abide by these restrictions, and on the other hand using apparently her political power to make sure that she doesn't have to. But anyway, Jayar, what do you think about Nancy Pelosi? How bad is this?
So, by the way, I feel like these types of things happen with regular folks all the time. Just stroll your neighborhood. I mean, we're specifically in LA, and where these rules were not put in place where people can get their hair and nails done. People are getting their hair and nails done. They are. So if you're Nancy Pelosi, you don't have to make a spectacle of it. You don't have to be on local news cameras doing it. You're rich. You're Nancy Pelosi. You're the Speaker of the House. Have someone show up at the crib and do your hair. Have them show up at the house and do your hair. You can roll by any neighborhood and you see somebody getting their hair cut on the balcony. I've seen it many times. And trust me, these folks are not rich like Nancy Pelosi is. So it's what it is what I've seen from this is a cluelessness about how it's going to come off and look. And also, and maybe rightfully so with the criticism, shows her detachment from the American people. But the problem is the people who have just the same detachment from the American people are complaining about her. They do the same thing. You think they won't? You think they haven't already? So it's opening yourself to disingenuous criticism from folks who actually don't care that you're doing it. And it's going to glom onto people who actually do care that you're doing it and be upset about it. That's why it's a perfect storm. It's also why you should just sit at home and get your hair done there, or don't do it at all. I don't know how bad she's going to look on television and in Congress with their hair looking like a mess, honestly, I don't care. I wouldn't notice it. So if someone else will, do something about it, but don't put your face out there and do all this, because it's a bad look all around.
It's also kind of shocking because she is incredibly wealthy. She could have had someone come to her house. It's just such a stupid risk to break the rules that way.
Celebrities and musicians and athletes, some of them travel with a barber. That's my barber. It's like a personal chef. That's my barber. When I need to get cleaned up, he cleans me up. You think she can't afford that? Come on, man.
Yeah, it's so stupid. I mean, look, substantively, it doesn't matter. If she's trying to pass a bill that actually provides economic relief to people and the Republicans aren't, I'm going to go with the person who violates the salon rule but actually cares to save people's lives and make sure that they're not on the streets. But so stupid. It's like finally people were moving on from her perspective. Finally, people were moving on from the ice cream thing, and she decides, I'm going to do this. And so, look, a spokesperson for Nancy Pelosi says this business offered for the speaker to come in on Monday and told her they were allowed by the city to have one customer at a time in the business. The speaker, who complied with the rules, is presented to her by the establishment. Is that true? I have no idea. The salon owner sent the tape, but apparently they rent out chairs to someone that hypothetically could have told Nancy Pelosi that. I don't know. It's still stupid either way. Leave your mask on. You don't need it to be taken off while you're doing this. Because, of course, they're going to pounce, and they are, with Donald Trump tweeting, crazy Nancy Pelosi is being decimated for having a beauty parlor opened when all others are closed. They're not closed. They just have to be outside. And for not wearing a mask, which is capitalized. Nobody knows why. Despite constantly lecturing everyone else, we will almost certainly take back the house and send Nancy packing. So, no, they're not going to take back the house. But this does play into them. And so here's the thing.
It's not even a good argument against her, but now it can be because you allowed it.
But it's easy. His fans don't need a good argument. They wouldn't know a good argument if it hit him in the head like a can of soup. They just want something that makes them feel good. So here's the thing. Trump there, thankfully, taking the pandemic seriously because he understands that we can't be breaking the rules and we do have to wear a mask. He's finally acknowledging that. So I assume he's going to take the pandemic really seriously. Or maybe he's just going to have a couple of barbs against Nancy Pelosi and then move on and forget the fact that, and I'm gonna continue showing this, even though nobody cares because everybody considers the pandemic to be over. But as of the most recent reporting, 1,022 COVID-19 deaths were reported in a 24-hour period. Again and again and again and again, day after day after day after day, 1,000 plus people die. How many months are we going to accept this before we finally lose it? And unfortunately, it works in the opposite direction. People just get so beaten down by the fact that 1,000 people are dying needlessly every single day and will for literally months that they just forget about the entire thing. And that's what the country has largely done. Maybe the Nancy Pelosi thing will get people to actually think about the fact that we're still in a pandemic at the very least. No. But so far, the reaction doesn't imply to me that people are going to come out of this story taking it more seriously.
Nope. Including Donald Trump, who decided to think he could use it for some kind of that's not even going to work, honestly. Anyone who's already following around behind him, I'm just going to keep censoring myself here, but anyone who follows around behind him doesn't really care which approach he takes to attack Nancy Pelosi or anyone else. They'll eat it up because I mean we've seen the BS he throws around, Men in Black on airplanes, because I don't know, he's listening to too many Will Smith songs, but it doesn't matter what you say. They're going to follow you. So as empty as this criticism is, yeah, sure. They'll take it.
Yeah, they're going to do it. Snesley Wipes on Twitch says, Pelosi just choked, guys. Yeah, it was like a high pressure thing. Should I wear my mask? Should I not? I choked. At least nobody died. That's good. People choke sometimes, they just choke. Okay. So over on Twitch, Crimson Countess says, exactly, Jayar. My coworker has her hair done at her house and she is not rich. It just seems safer. I mean, I understand I can just buzz my head. And so I guess I'm speaking from a place of privilege in terms of hair. But if you're Nancy Pelosi, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Okay. Snesley Wipes says, Jayar is the Yoda of TYT.
Wow, that's big.
I don't know what he'll think about that. Galifar says, I'll give him Mace Windu, but not up to Yoda. Mace Windu's pretty cool.
If I knew who Mace Windu was, about macing a window.
Let's see you.
Use mace on other people, on people that are looking to attack you, not your windows. It doesn't do anything.
It smears. Anyway.
Windex.
Rob Shively. Rob Shively asked John, which superhero are you? Captain Chowder? I'll take that. I like Chowder. Chuck Audio says Jethro Tull's new album, Thick as a Bisque. Oh God, the soup puns. Vegan Lay says, I want to see John knocked out by super chats. Kidding. Thank you, Vegan. Grindy Low says, hello, John and Jayar. This weekend, I realized there's a Trump board game. Have either of you played it? Do you think there are unlimited get out of jail free cards? Thank you for brightening my morning with some dark news. Thank you, Grindy Low. Jayar, have you seen the Trump board game?
I've not. No.
I'm assuming not. It's old. It's from way back. I've seen it, and no, I didn't play it. Even like as a lark, I don't want to be touching anything related to Donald Trump.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Panama Lane says a brick or a can of soup would have the same force given that their mass and velocity are described as P equals mv. 6th grade math. Matt Gaetz is a tool. Exactly. No, there's just something about bricks that you just can't get any force behind them. I don't know what it is. It's like, oh God, if only it was chowder. Anyway, and by the way, on the bricks over on Twitter at #TDR Live, Stephanie Montgomery says you can't lift bricks. Trump is clearly a wimp. She puts this photo of this entire brick patio. I carried all of these bricks, a total of 6 times each. 72 bricks, 5 times, a total of 360 bricks. They're 12 inches by 12 inches and weigh about 20 pounds each. Soup is what, a pound? Someone needs to get his wimpy butt a personal trainer. You know, honestly, Donald Trump, he doesn't have to be the strong man to be called a strong man. He doesn't have to be an alpha to be called an alpha, all of that. They say that he's this like muscular guy no matter what, but it does seem weird. Why hasn't he at least tried to look like the guy he pretends to be? Like, he's been in the public eye for years and years and years. Even if you give him till 2015, he hasn't tried to like look like the thing he presents himself as. It's so lazy. He's the laziest dictator ever.
You're talking about physically, like supposed to make himself look decent?
Yeah. Like,
oh my God!
Strong.
Because
you want to be the strong man, look strong.
He believes exercise kills you. Remember?
He does. But like, if you want to call yourself the superior race, look kind of superior, maybe, or something. God. Anyway,
I heard the line somewhere. They said white supremacists are always the least superior, even white people.
I know. Well, the thing is, like, look, it's hard to be this ideal. So you can either do it, which is really tough, especially if you've got a lot going on and you don't have the resources, or you can just declare it. No matter what I do or accomplish or don't, I'm superior. Not by anything I've ever done, but just by the way I was born. It's convenient. It's a lot easier than working.
Absolutely.
Anyway, okay, we've got one more story, and I think we have time for it. Here's going to be a weird one. Donald Trump wants to assure you that he is not having a series of mini strokes, which is totally a normal thing that people just bring up. I want to assure you that I didn't have a seizure earlier today. People just say that stuff, right? Okay, so what are we talking about? Well, way back on Saturday, November 16th of 2019, President Donald Trump made an unexpected visit to Walter Reed Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Now, this was written about recently by New York Times reporter Gabriel Debenedetti, who notes that in this Schmidt book, which is one of the sort of analyses of behind-the-scenes stuff of Trump that we get all the time, reports that the White House wanted Mike Pence on standby to take over the powers of the president temporarily if Trump had to undergo a procedure that would have required him to be anesthetized. The vice president never had to take this step. Now, that's where the book and the reporting ends. And for some reason, back on September 1st, Trump tweeted, "It never ends." Now they are trying to say that your favorite president, me, went to Walter Reed Medical Center having suffered a series of mini strokes. Never happened to this candidate. Fake news. Perhaps they were referring to another candidate from another party. First of all, when you say they're referring, who's referring? Because nobody is talking about a series of mini strokes. Now, there was a guy from CNN that tweeted, "Did he have a stroke or something?" That's it. The book wasn't specific as to any medical problems. The reporting by the New York Times about it wasn't specific. Only that tweet even used the word stroke. Nobody said anything about a series of mini strokes. And yet Donald Trump wants to ensure that you know that it's not a tumor. I don't know why, but I think we can imagine, Jayar. Is this as simple as it seems?
Well, it's Donald Trump, so it's even simpler than it seems. So, as I've said before, anytime he actually denies something, you can take it to the bank that it's actually the opposite is true. So if he says, "There's no way I suffered a series of mini strokes," he suffered a series of mini strokes. And number two, the whole process of having to notify Mike Pence that he needs to be prepared to potentially take over if this happens, that's a normal thing, by the way. So Dick Cheney was given that same warning because at the time W went under for a colonoscopy or something like that. So presidents, believe it or not, are human beings. Donald Trump doesn't want you to admit that because he's like Kim Jong-un. So they're humans, and sometimes they need medical attention. Sometimes they have health problems, normal ones, like W needing a colonoscopy, and then your vice president being notified for normal circumstances. If someone actually has to go through medical procedure, they might pass away, especially when they're old, like this guy. So be prepared. It would be, if you just admit it, it's normal. Now, if you start lying about it, it makes people start saying, "Well, why would you lie about it? What was it then?" That's the question that comes from your horrible denials because you don't even know how to lie. But also the reason he doesn't know how to lie is because he never had to actually convince anyone he was lying. He just says stuff and people buy it.
Yeah. Like sometimes it's difficult to even come up with analogies for how crazy it is. But like I think this analogy is robust. Let me walk you through it. Okay. So someone tells my wife they saw me out with a girl. And then one of our mutual friends says, "Oh, was he there with a redhead?" And then I call my wife and say, "I didn't have a threesome with a couple of redheads." That's
fake news.
No. That's weird. You're fake news. I didn't have a series of threesomes. That's just so weird. And look, so
you can
and
call
it's not
all three of these women. Call all three of them, and I guarantee you they'll back up my story.
Exactly. Well, what if you were to call those women and ask them, and they responded as Mike Pence did when he was asked about the trip to the hospital?
Another candidate from another party. This refers to Michael Schmidt's book where he says the president went to Walter Reed, which in fact happened in November of last year. He says in the book that you were put on alert to take control, to take office essentially, if he went under for anesthesia. Is that true?
President Donald Trump is in excellent health. And Brett, I'm always informed of the president's movements. And whether it was on that day or any other day, I'm informed. But there was nothing out of the ordinary about that moment or that day. And I just refer any other questions to the White House physician.
But as far as being on standby?
I don't recall being told to be on standby. I was informed that the president had a doctor's appointment, and
I don't want to spend too much
tell
time on it, but I just want to.
Yeah, I got to tell you, and part of this job is you're always on standby. As your vice president of the United States, but the American people can be confident that this president is in remarkable good health, and every single day I see that energy in high relief.
Okay, so there are denials, and then there's whatever that was, which was definitely not a clear denial.
Yeah, Mike Pence's political approach to anything is to talk long enough to make people eventually go, "Okay, I'm tired of listening to this. I don't know what he said, but I don't care anymore."
Seriously,
that's his political strategy.
Mm-hmm. He's like, there was nothing out of the ordinary, which he's right. You go on standby if they're going to be put under. That apparently is the actual procedure. So yeah, that's not out of the ordinary. And he said, "I don't recall being on standby." He like drew it out in a weird way. So look, my takeaway is, it happened. I get that his doctor, the White House physician, I'm not even sure if he was the one who did it, said that he didn't have any of these things. But I'm sorry, when you've lied to us 20,000 times, I'm not going to simply accept what you say. But my assumption is that it has to be a series of mini strokes because Donald Trump just injected that for no reason. It's got to be.
Yeah, and the sad part about this is anytime a Trump official or someone under him has to defend him, they have to start by talking about how he is this immortal, superhuman human being. So, and that smug look that Pence decided to give was, let's keep it real, Brett. The president is in the best shape ever in the world, and I'm on top of that every day. So if you're on top of every time his health and how in shape he is and where he goes and everything he does, how are you not sure if they told you to be on standby? I thought you were just so definite. You know everything, every move this president makes. I watch it and I'm in awe. I wish it was me. So you know everything about him, but you don't know if you were on standby. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Which one is it? In two sentences to contradict yourself, because by the way, that's what happens when you lie for the president. You either contradict yourself in 5 seconds or he contradicts you in 30 minutes.
Yeah. I want to make one final point. I am covering this because it's real weird. That's why I'm covering it. However, I want to be very clear, and feel free to disagree with me. It doesn't matter. Like, if he had a series of mini strokes and was hospitalized to deal with it, he could just say that. And even if he doesn't, it doesn't matter. Like, I understand there's this weird thing where people love to like fantasize about people that they don't like having medical problems. It was this thing back in the 2016 election where every time that Hillary Clinton like coughed or something, there were conspiracy theories about her having like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or something like that. Like, no. It doesn't actually matter if he had a health problem outside of for his actual health. It doesn't mean that he suddenly will not be president anymore or that they're going to 25th Amendment him or anything like that. It's not going to shift any votes. It doesn't matter. I care about the truth, so I'm going to try to get to it based on the evidence we have. But it doesn't matter. We don't win if he has a stroke. So just to be clear about that, and I understand that I'm being like Buzz Killington here, and the story is fun because it's insane. But it doesn't actually matter. You don't win just because you spin conspiracy theories about people having pneumonia and stuff like that. It doesn't have anything to do with the power they exert in office, which will continue regardless of their health problems. Just to be clear.
John, you're living in a reality-based world. In Donald Trump's world, it's weakness to be sick. And if you admit to being sick, you're weak. And if you're weak, he can't continue to push the narrative that everyone else is weak and that everyone else is low energy and that everyone else is about to die, that everyone else is in mental decline. Because now, if it doesn't matter anymore, then he can't use that as a political weapon. That's one of his main political weapons. It's also why he can't talk about the violence of his supporters, because that's his political weapon, to say the other side. So everything he claims about one side to pursue his political aspirations, he can't admit to an iota of that happening for him and his side, because it eliminates it. You know, they have BS argument. You can't throw any kind of truth to it.
It's this weird thing where, he can't admit it. It's this weird thing where they can't admit to things that have nothing to do with you actually being strong or not, while all the time shouting in your face all the ways that they are weak and ignorant. Like, you shouldn't wear a mask because it makes you look weak. I'm worried about cans of soup. Like, I believe conspiracy. Like, that's weakness. That's actual weakness. Having strokes when you're an elderly man is not weakness. So, like, American masculinity is designed to switch those two things, to make weakness strength and strength weakness. Yeah, and unfortunately, it's people like that have power. So, anyway, Jayar, thank you as always for that supersized episode of the show. Appreciate you joining us tonight.
Always fun, you guys. It's always fun. We'll do this again soon, I think.
Soon. I think so. You know what? We might try it out again another Wednesday, perhaps. And hopefully someday you'll be over there and we'll be talking in person. Won't that be a thing to see?
I might just show up one day, John. You never know.
Yeah. Jayar, can I ask you one final question? Is there any chance Sprocket is on the couch?
Sprocket is generally always on the couch. Hey, he's right behind me.
Can we see him? Any chance? Sprocket, buddy.
Sprocket, come here.
I miss you.
Going the wrong way. Come here. Come here. Shaking.
I only ask because we did get 2,000 likes. Oh my God.
He was jumping off the couch. He had to have a nice dog shake for a second because apparently, dogs have to do that. So he was wasting time.
That face.
There's Sprocket.
Look at that face.
He thought we were about to go for a walk, so he got excited when I called him.
Is it legal to have an Ewok as a pet? I don't know. We're going to find out. Oh, so cute. Anyway, Jayar, thank you. Come on, man.
He's going to get a bath. All right, see you guys. Thank you.
See you later. And for everyone at home, let's see what's going on. Blue Heartbox says, it is on Super Chat, just resurfacing a promise from stale Cheeto. He was supposed to unveil his new healthcare plan by the end of August. Womp womp. Yeah, 100%. No, none of those things ever come true. Like, he said he's going to tell us more about the Antifa plane. Yeah, hold your breath on that one. I think we're going to get some real good information. But yeah, good to point it out. Brianna says, found TYT TDR because of the craziness of 2020. I live in a Republican city in Texas. Nice to know there are sane people out there. Brianna, welcome to Dragon Squad. Appreciate you being here. Franklin Sharpslicer said, mini strokes, what can we do? I don't get them. Oh, yes, you do. Mini stroke, stop if you can. After I open up this big hungry man. Franklin, you've lost it. But thank you. Too much soup, I think. That's what causes it. Wes Crosby says, great show, guys, but every time JR beats on the table, my dog wakes up barking, thinking someone's at the door. Again, great show, guys. I know. Apologies. Let's see. Jenna says, have you seen the movie Society by the guys who made Reanimator? It will transform how you look at the elite in a truly horrifying way. I have not, but I'll be on the lookout for you. Thank you. Okay. Nora says, how do you guys do it? How do any of us do it? Stay strong. What else are you going to do? You just got to keep going. But thank you, Nora. Appreciate your super chat. Rebecca, thank you. Nikki says, ever notice that they talk about Trump, they change from the president to this president when they're being extra shady? Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't noticed that. Joseph says, going to mention Shahid Buttar. I mean, specifically, I'm sure we're going to talk more about it. I mean, I've had him on the show literally multiple times. And hopefully he's going to do very well in his election. Okay. Philian over on Twitch says, Trump couldn't throw a brick. Paper towels are his limit. Probably for the best. Maria says, I'm going to get a beer. Does anyone want one? Oh, wait. If I throw the can to you, does that make me a deadly Antifa super soldier? It's dangerous. You could kill a man, but I don't think that a beer has the ballistic properties of a can of soup. That's really where the danger lies. Jeff says on TDR Live, have you read the script for Star Wars Duel of the Fates? If so, I'd like to know your thoughts on it. I'm not actually familiar with it. Is that a fan thing? Jessica says, hey, John Iadarola, we're going to need you to stop practicing the delicate Don impression. You're getting too good at it. It's borderline creepy. I'm trying. Anna and I are coming at it from different directions. Hers is like this really creepy bedroom voice thing. Mine is basically been influenced by listening to a lot of Stephen Colbert over the past few years. But we're trying, okay? And that's all we can do. Anyway, and man, there are a lot of cute cats and dogs over on #TDR Live, so you're definitely not going to want to miss that. Head over there if you need a little pick-me-up. Marianne and Shannon, thank you for your super chats. Just seeing those now. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I am going to be joining Anna Kasparian on the main show later on today, so you can definitely check that out. Should be a lot of fun. It always is, and we've got more TDR planned for you throughout the week, as well as interviews that we're conducting, so definitely check the YouTube channel for those. They're not live, so you are going to have to look at them there. But until then, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.